Hi there folks, welcome to RRTV's live coverage of the Porsche Carrera Cup, coming to you from Oran Park for round 9, and we're here as always for a 30-minute sprint race. And before we get into the details of tonight, your commentary team tonight, well, we're very lucky, we've got a number of us in here. Myself, Bernie Weemers, I've got Edward Foster in here and Roger Clark. So welcome guys, it's going to be a great night of Porsche racing, and hopefully you're not too nervous.
Yeah, thanks very much, Bernie. I'm just actually waiting for my live stream to pop up here, so I can't actually see what you're seeing at the moment. But if it's anything like the last few races that we've had in this Porsche season, it's going to be absolutely fantastic nights racing.
Yeah, it certainly will.
Evening.
Oh, sorry,
Evening,
Roger.
Bernie, evening, Edward. All good, mate. Yeah, glad to be here. Hopefully the racing's nice and tight. Looking forward to it.
It's going to be fantastic fun, and Edward, I'll get you to refresh your screen and it should pop up for you. So folks, the way it's going to work, they're actually out there qualifying at the moment. 11 minutes of qualifying to go, and having a look at your top 10. At the moment, Scott Lanark is on provisional pole with a 1:03.354. We've got Michael Healy second, quickest with a 1:03.382. Baden Reed third, fourth Brett Cananzi, and fifth we have Gary Hamilton with the 1:03.708. And the guys are all in the 1:03s all the way down to 10th. But if you have a look at that, they're only split by about 0.8 of a second, which generally means, Roger, it's going to be a very, very close race out there.
Oh, it's good to hear. Yeah, I'm a bit new to the old road racing scene, so yeah, this should be quite interesting for me.
Yeah, and we can see at the moment the driver on screen is Bruce Smith there in the number 17, and we've seen him around a little bit. We normally see Bruce running in the Anscar series, so it's good to see him actually trying his hand out there in the Porsches tonight as he hits the fence very hard.
Yeah, quite used to seeing Bruce, and he's normally running up the front half of the pack in the Anscar series. Nice to see a few different names that I recognise from our series. So get to see the overdrivers getting into a bit of road racing and vice versa, this side of the world.
Yeah, and the other one you'd be used to seeing is Thomas Hinz. He enjoys his Anscar racing. He also loves his V8 supercars. He's out here tonight in the Porsche. 8th quickest at the moment with a 1:03.917, and you can just see him there in the number 52, folks. Sponsored by Cage Centric. So while this is going on, let's go through the point score here, folks. So you can see where your favourite driver sits coming into this round. So having a look at the sprint points, we're only up to round 4 of the sprint series, but at the moment Scott Lanark is leading that with 133 points. Only 2 points behind him is Michael Healy, and as you can see in qualifying, they are 1 and 2 at the moment, split by around about 0.03 of a second. And he's 2 points behind on 131. Cameron Dance in third on 129. Shannon Mason, he's sitting in fourth at the moment at 111. And then Thomas Hinz is in fifth in the point score on 107. Moving back through to 6 is Tom Curran. Then we've got Richard Skender in 7th. Dylan Shepherd 8th, 9th, Luke Lucas. And rounding out your top 10 is Chris Dawson. So there's a lot to play for in the sprint series, and it's going to be exciting to see who's going to come out on top. Will it be Michael, Scott, or one of these other drivers may come up and beat both of them tonight? So how's it going there, Edward? You got the thing working now, mate?
Yeah, just having a couple of small issues I'm just working on at the moment. So yeah, just continue away. Obviously, these Porsche drivers, it's going to be a very, very close race tonight. There are a number of guys who can definitely run up the front. There's a few guys who are in the hunt for the championship. There's also a couple of guys who are definitely in the contention for the race win. So I will continue to work on the issues on my end, and I will join you very, very shortly.
Not a problem. Yeah, Oran Park, it's an amazing track. It's a love-hate type track, and some people absolutely love it. Quite a few people don't. It's a track that keeps you extremely busy, and a track that you need to also be extremely focused on around here, because I tell you what, Roger, those undulations and the blind corner coming up through the dog leg there can absolutely catch you unawares.
Yeah, I think also the car combination with how these Porsches shift their weight, with most of the weight being in the rear of the car. I think it's going to be quite important for the drivers to be, I would call it, a bit wary on the throttle, just to stop the car from coming around. I did go out and try to do a quick test lap, and yeah, it didn't end too well coming through turn 1. I was a bit trigger happy in the old right pedal, but yeah, it should be quite interesting. I'm actually just watching Michael Healy do some laps at the moment. Good and clean, and sort of seems to know what he's up to, so I'm looking forward to the big battle between Michael and Scott.
Yeah, and Michael's just jumped him there to provisional pole with a 103.353. That's 1,000th of a second is splitting him and Scott Lanark at the moment. So it's going to be very exciting indeed. We've got a total of 29 cars out here tonight, folks, running. And as far as the race goes, it's a 30-minute time certain sprint race around here tonight. We can expect them to have one pit stop. Don't expect them to throw tyres on. It's just going to be a fuel stop only. And the reason for that is because they are fuel limited, just to make sure that happens. As far as fast repairs go, they have one and no incident limit, so they can cut the corners if they need to, and I'm sure we'll see a few of them using the as we just see there, Michael Healy getting a bit of a Liberace there. They'll be free to be able to just drop those wheels off the inside of the curbs if they need to, which is probably a good thing, Roger. Around something like Oran Park, it's good to have that slight freedom, because there's a lot of corners here that you really need to use as much of the road as possible.
Yeah, I have noticed a bit of the corner cutting going on. Nothing too serious, as far as I can call. Yeah, you are right. That the drivers will need as much road as they can muster. I'm actually just watching David Mulhall going off track at turn 1. Might have just been a bit of late braking. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see him there in the 230. Beautifully presented car there, and what's that, AR sponsored vehicle. But as far as looking at the weather tonight, folks, let's have a look at that. And okay, so let's bring that up at the moment. Overcast, 24 degrees Celsius, so 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So quite a cool day, as you can see, folks. It's not going to rain. A bit of overcast though, but rain should settle in later on this evening, according to the iRacing Weather Channel. As far as where this track was, it was up at Narellan, just south of Sydney, and out there past towards Penrith, out that way, or south of Penrith. Great little track. Of course, now it is a suburb, and they've named all the streets after racing drivers, which is nice. And yeah, but it was a very nice track. Went up there a few times as a young man. Raced on the go-kart circuit once, which was rather interesting. You can actually see that as they come up under the bridge and to the right. That was a go-kart circuit, and a lot of fun, that's for sure. But as far as tonight goes, folks, Daniel Coxon will be with me later on this evening. After this, we've got the AOSC 150k sprint coming in after this event, and you'll be able to catch that on RRTV live. It'll be on a different stream than you're watching now, but I'll make sure that if you go back to the main page, you'll be able to find us there. So that kicks off 9:15 p.m. this evening, so that should be a lot of fun as well. So I'm just having a look at the top 10, the drivers to keep an eye on tonight. Definitely keep an eye on Cameron Dance, Thomas Hinz. They're both fast chargers there, and we'll see if Thomas can improve on that 8th qualifying. There's quite a lot of big names in here. Gary Hamilton, Baden Reed, expect those guys to also be challenging very early on in the race and potentially taking the win as well. Cooper Webster in 9th. Very exciting driver. We see him normally in the AOSC, and he partners up with Jamie McKnight. Quite a young bloke, but I tell you what, he is an awesome driver and he's a fast driver, so it'll be interesting to see what he brings to this race tonight as well. Currently sitting in 9th position, and we'll see if he can also improve. Just having a look down further in the field here, folks, to see if there's anyone down there that's actually could be a fast charger. Well, we've got Richard Brookfield down there in the Fluke entry, currently 21st, so he's struggling a bit, and Will Barrington in the BRT in 24th in the number 16, so we'll see what he can do. He's looks like he's been having a bit of a tough time there in qualifying though.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly does. I mean, Will Barrington, he's one of the guys that we recognise from ANSCAR competition as well. He's racing in the truck series with us, obviously racing tonight here in the Porsches. And yeah, he can definitely wheel these things. He can wheel quite a number of the cars on iRacing. And we can see a number of the guys at the moment who are having difficulties with this circuit. You know, as you mentioned earlier on, it's a housing estate nowadays in real life, which is an absolute travesty as far as motor racing is concerned, because it's a fantastic little circuit, a club level circuit, national level circuit definitely, but it's a fantastic circuit, a unique figure of 8 layout, and has shown a lot of great racing over the years as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see who's going to be the ones to actually set the pace around here, who the pace setters are going to be. Michael Healy, we know how good he is. He's going to jump in, and he's actually sitting fastest at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised. He is only a 1,000th of a second up on Scotland Arc, and Gary Hamilton sitting in behind him also. So it's anyone's race this, really, but those top 3, 4, 5, even 6 guys looking very good at the moment.
Certainly are, and the exciting thing is there's only 2 points separating Scotland Arc and Michael Healy for the lead of the Sprint Championship, so those guys are going to have that in mind, and no doubt they're going to be racing hard, but they're not going to want to trade paint. That could bring Gary Hamilton into the mix, and we'll definitely keep an eye on that. I'll get you to turn your mic up just slightly, Roger. The viewers wish to hear your beautiful dulcet tones coming through. So just waiting for the guys to finish. We can see now Brett Cananci, he's on a flyer at the moment, and the checkered flag's out, but he will get to finish this. No, he won't. He's on a warm-up, so that won't count. So we might start going through the grid, I think, guys, because it's going to be a big grid, and I want to make sure we cover all the drivers off. So let's have a look at the grid so you can see where your favourite driver will be starting. So tonight, Michael Healy will start from pole position with a 103.353, just beating Scotland Arc to the post. He did a 103.354. In the second row, we have Gary Hamilton out of third, Baden Reed fourth. As we move back to the third row, fifth position will be Brett Cananzi. He's joined on the grid by Griffin Gardner. Looking back at seventh, we have Cameron Dance. Eighth, Thomas Hinz. Starting out of ninth tonight, it's Cooper Webster with Matt Morris starting out of 10th. Out of 11th is Jason Hyde. Starting out of 12th next to him will be Blake Purdy. As we move back through the grid, we have Bruce Smith. He's starting out of 13th with Richard Skender out of 14th. 15th, Jono Freeman, and he has Luke Lucas starting next to him in 16th. 17th tonight will be David Mulhall, and Brett Douglas, he will start out of 18th. As we move further through the grid, Tom Freer, he will start in 19th, Richard Brookfield out of 20th. Tim Weston, he's going to start in 21st, and Leonage out of 22nd. 23rd tonight, Mick Wilson with Will Barrington out of 24th. Out of 25th is Alex Court. Luckmole Leonage will start next to him in 26th. 27th, Aaron Dillon. Jamie McKnight is not racing. He's race control. And Joshua Steinhardt out of 29th. So that is your grid, folks.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how the Leonage brothers go. Obviously, they're starting, I'm assuming they're brothers. They must be related in some way. But they are starting down in the 20s. Be interesting to see if they can sort of make their way through. I don't know how well they work together. I certainly know what it's like to race against your own brother. So I'm not, like I say, I'm not sure if these guys are brothers. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if those guys can move their way through. Up at the top end of the field, though, you've got the usual suspects. You've got Lanark, and you've got Thomas Hinz up there and Webster as well. So it's going to be a close race. It is really, it's one of those where it's anybody's race, it's anybody's competition. And even looking back into the midfield, there's some very, very capable drivers sitting down there in the midfield who are going to be looking to work their way up. So whether or not they're able to do it through overtaking on track or strategy, there's loads of different things that are going to come into play in this race. And it's just going to be a good one. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and race control. We're under starters orders here. Revs rising. Here we go, folks. 30-minute timed race. I'll tell you what, Michael Healy got a great start. He goes straight across to cover off Scott Lanark there as they come down into Coca-Cola corner for the first time, too wide. And now the WP concreting entry slots in behind them. As they go through the first corner, you can hear some contact. Michael Healy almost goes around. That's going to cost him big time. He's dropping all the way down at the moment, folks, down to 5th position. He's got Brett Cananzi next to him, and he's still squirrely. Oh, that must be cold tyres there, Edward.
Yeah, it was absolutely full on, wasn't it? Terrible start for Mike, running off the pole, and he's dropped a number of spots there. He obviously did the right thing straight off the start, and he's kind of jumped in and tried to cover off that second place, that threat from Lanark that he really felt there. But at the same time, it's almost as if he got into a bit of contact there and everything else, and it really didn't run the plan for him. So he's fallen back into the field, and you've got the leaders there at the not forgetting qualifying in terms of one lap pace at the very least, really displayed very, very close to pace to what he was able to manage. So let's see now as they complete lap 1 whether he's going to be able to actually come back and fight his way through against guys who are really a very similar pace to him.
Well, exactly right. It's going to be exciting to see. He can use pit strategy to his advantage, though. Currently, he is down in 8th position. So if we go through your top 10, folks, as we complete lap 1 here. Scott Lanark, he is leading Gary Hamilton in 2nd. In 3rd position, Baden Reed at the moment, getting a bit of a gap from 2nd to 3rd. Griffin Gardner, he's sitting in 4th at the moment with Brett Cananzi there in 5th position. Cooper Webster, he's moved up to 6th position at the moment and is looking strong with Cameron Dance in 7th. We can hear more contact behind us. Michael Healy, it looks like he's stabilised there in 8th position with a lot of work to do, and he's got Thomas Hinz for company right behind him. Rounding out your top 10 as they come through to complete lap 2, that is Blake Purdy, and see what Blake can do in the number 48.
Yeah, guys, I'm just watching Matt Morris. He had a small off on lap 1, and he's dropped back 3 spots, and he's slowly making his way back up the field. He's down 15th at the moment.
Yeah, I can see him in the number 23 there, the Waxit entry, and he's got David Mulhall behind him. He's trying to chase down Jason Hyde. Another guy that's in potential trouble is the 399, Tom Freer. He's actually come down through the pits. He did a 50-second stop, so he may have had contact on lap 1, and he's already used that fast repair. So be interesting to see what Tom does. Of course, he started his career at Race Stars over at Bowral, and he's now got his own iRacing account, and I think he still races out of their store over there.
Yeah, I think he does, Bernie, actually. There's a couple of guys there that we actually see in this race who are involved with the Race Stars business. Luke Lucas, of course, is the one who runs that over there. And down in Barrel, and Tom Free is one of those who races under that banner. And we see both those guys out there tonight having a run in the Porsches, and they'll race pretty much anything in time. We see Tom Freer and quite a lot racing in stock cars, and obviously we see him tonight in Porsches. And these guys are just guys who just love racing. And great to see them out here tonight having a crack. And so obviously a very big field, but he'll be looking to have a good night tonight, even though he's had that setback at the beginning. He's going to be looking to fight back Tom Freer and see how far up the field he can actually get.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, one guy that is coming through the field at the moment, folks, is Cooper Webster. He's already moved up 4 positions. He's in the 5th. So obviously Oran Park is something he enjoys very much. He's got Michael Healy, though, right behind him now. Michael's got back to 6th position. We'll get you a time as he comes across the line here this time through. And Michael Healy's last time, a 1:04.212. He's only 1/10 of a second slower than Scott Lanark, but he's quicker than most of the other guys. So Michael is on the comeback now, Roger.
Yeah, Bernie, I was just watching a small incident that took place in the previous lap. In the complex coming up to the bridge with Matt Morris and Cameron Dance, where Morris ran slightly wide into Dance, and they hit the wall and had a minor off. Again, got Morris coming over the bridge, making his way back up again.
Yeah, we've also had some issues with Brett Cananzi. He's in the pits and not going anywhere, getting towed back. And Aaron Dillon also just got towed back, folks. So that's a couple of guys that are struggling out there. Bruce Smith, we saw him in 12th position. He's moved up to 9th at the moment. And as we were saying in qualifying, we see him a little bit out in the Ants car. He was also trying his hand at sprint car racing the other night. So that's pretty exciting to see him try getting down and dirty.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Smith is one of those guys where you just, I've raced with him before. I've raced door to door with him on many occasions before, and he's certainly one hard driver that you don't necessarily want to come up against. He definitely no quarter asked or given when you race against him. But one of the things that I'm watching at the moment is Cameron Dance. I mean, he's been one of those guys who's in almost everything he races runs very, very close to the front. There seems to be only a few guys that are able to run at his pace, but he's fallen all the way down to 12th position after qualifying quite well. Michael Healy's obviously fallen down. He's back up to 6th place now, but Cameron Dance has fallen down. He hasn't actually gained a great deal since that initial first loss. I mean, it's entirely possible for someone to have a bad first lap, but he seems to have had a bad first lap and have to sort of almost sustain that. He hasn't really moved back up. So I've got to be following him, and he's going to be one to watch throughout the rest of the race to see if he can gain back any of what he lost in the early stage of this race.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see if he can. The other guy we just saw going off the track there's Jono Freeman as he's trying up the inside of Coca-Cola Corner. I tell you that was a wishful move if I've ever seen one. And now he's flashing the lights at the 23. That's Matt Morris. Well, Matt had that corner, and Jono decided he was going to put it up the inside. And Matt, of course, didn't move over. But we saw Jono off a couple of turns back. He's now sitting in 13th. So Oran Park definitely does what it does best, and that is serving itself up to these drivers and testing them to the limit. But at the moment, one person that is enjoying his run, Scott Lanark, he's got a second gap now over Gary Hamilton in second. Third is Baden Reed. He's also 1 second down. Griffin Gardner, he's a second behind them as well. Then we've got Cooper Webster, followed by Michael Healy. So the guys are definitely spreading out. Thomas Hinds in 7th, and a big gap all the way back to Purdy, as we can just hear, who was that spinning in the background there? That was Bruce Smith going off on turn 2 there.
Yeah, unfortunate for Bruce. He's obviously run wide there. There are a few... I gained what you were saying earlier on about, the gap sort of spreading out at the front. It looks as though Lanark has, after that frantic first couple of laps that we had, it really does look as though he's sort of in the zone now. He's at the point where he's controlling the race. He's got a decent gap. When I say decent gap, it's decent for these cars because they run very, very close. But he's got a 1 second gap as he just snatches the brakes there. He's got a good gap to the guy behind it. He's just going to be managing that. Gary Hamilton, we all know how fast he is. And he's just trying to keep that gap at around about 1 second, 1.1 as it sits at the moment. Scott Lanark is going to be trying to just manage that. He's going to be trying to keep the gap as it is. He doesn't want to accelerate too hard and really burn off his tyres because he's going to need those come the end of the race. We are expecting a stop tonight, but at the same time, he's going to want to look after those and make sure he's got good, consistent pace. It's about the long run, these types of races. Gary Hamilton, he's got two problems. He's got not only the same problems that Scott Lanark has got, managing the tyres, managing the temperatures, everything like that, but he's got a gap to make up, and he's got Baden Reed right behind him. Griffin Gardner not too far back. Cooper Webster, you mentioned him before. How many places he's managed to gain? He's up to 4th place at the moment, and they're all going to be trying to get on terms with Scott Lanark. How they do that is going to differ driver to driver. Are they going to try and do that in the pits? Are they going to try and do that on raw pace? With only one pit stop, your pit options are limited, but there's certainly an option there for guys to actually take a clever pit strategy, feed themselves out into good traffic and hope that it doesn't necessarily work out so well for one of the guys in front of them and look to gain position that way. Either way, as far as an on-track battle and a strategic battle, it's going to be interesting and exciting to see how it's going to play out over the course of this race, which we're expecting to last around about an hour.
Yeah, that's right. And we're down to, 19 minutes of racing to go. The other thing about Oran Park, it's not only testing to the drivers on the track, there's also danger that faces them when they come into pit lane. The exit onto pit lane comes off the final corner there. They're on the racing line, and then they've got to negotiate their way through a very, very narrow pit entry. The other thing they've got to watch out for is when they come out, they're actually coming back out onto the racing line, and they're going to have to be very careful how they feed themselves back into the traffic there. So it's like one of those old school circuits where you had pit lanes that didn't quite probably fit the modern OH&S standards that we're used to today.
Oh, who wants OH&S, mate? It's terrible. But I'm just watching Bruce Smith at the moment, and he's got Cameron Dance and Matt Morris for company, and they are absolutely running nose to tail, and there's not a lot between them at the moment at all. Cameron Dance, he's carrying a little bit of damage there, and he's looking at actually making back some of those positions, as we mentioned before, that he actually sacrificed early on in the race, and I think that Matt Morris is going to be looking at doing exactly the same thing. Cameron Dance there, he goes around the outside of Bruce Smith, and Bruce Smith holding to the inside. It looks as though Dance may carry the momentum there as he's stuck on the outside for these two right-handers there, running to the outside, but it may be, I don't even know how to call this, but he's got it there to the outside, and Matt Morris gets into the back of Bruce Smith and actually turns him around. And that's unfortunate. He was doing nothing there but defend his position. But it appears as though Matt Morris has actually got right into the back of him there and spun him onto the grass. So he may have even taken the tow back to the pits with that one. So unfortunate for him, but definitely hard panel banging racing for sure.
Yeah, he'll be dirty about that because that didn't even look like Matt had lifted. He just got in the back of him and kept on going. But I tell you what, look at Morris's car. I don't know what you'd call that. It used to be a Porsche. I think he's remodelling that into a VW or something, Roger.
Yeah, I was just having a look at that. Kind of does resemble more of a VW than a Porsche now.
It's probably worth about as much. For the fans of Michael Healy here, folks, he's 5 seconds down from the lead at the moment. He's just trying to get on the back of Cooper Webster here, but he's dropped off because Cooper is pressing forward at the moment as we just give him the curse and he gets it all crossed up. And there goes Michael Healy sailing past, going, thank you very much. And Thomas Hinds is now on the back of him. No doubt he will want to capitalise as well while Cooper's trying to get his car back up to speed.
Well, that's the thing that happens, isn't it? You know, you make a small mistake and it takes a little while for a driver to regroup mentally. It takes a little second for him to actually fall back into his rhythm. Motor racing, as any driver will tell you, is all about rhythm, getting that lap after lap after lap churning out. And you can see that Cooper is actually really struggling for that at the moment. He's locking wheels. He's obviously made that mistake. And now he's got Thomas Hinz behind him. And Thomas is not the kind of guy who's going to go locking brakes or making stupid dives into a corner or anything like that. He will just be a constant presence in Webster's rearview mirror. And it's definitely going to give him something to think about. I mean, Webster's got pace. We saw early in the race and we saw in qualifying that Webster definitely has pace. But if he's made a mistake, he's going to be mentally just kicking himself for that mistake. And he's got to really get past that now and try to fall into his rhythm and really ignore the flashing Porsche that he's got in his rearview mirror of Thomas Hinz, and really try to actually get back on turns with the cars in front. And that's why motor racing is a mental challenge as much as it is a physical one or anything else, because you make that kind of mistake. Everybody makes mistakes during a race, but if he makes that kind of mistake, he's really got to actually settle himself and regroup. And you can see a bit of smoke peeling off his tyres as he goes through those corners. He's got to keep that smooth, because if those tyres are your life, if you burn those things off, you're going to be in major trouble. And Thomas Hinz is ready there to take that position to pounce if Webster makes any more mistakes.
Yeah, exactly right. And the thing is, with both of these drivers, quite a few of them, we will see them back in the AOSC later on tonight. Then they've got to front up and do 57 laps around here in a V8 supercar. So they don't want to get themselves too tired. But at the moment, Scott Lanark, well, he's led from the start of this race. He's doing it reasonably easy. He's got a gap now of 1.3 seconds over Gary Hamilton. Gary, though, he's still got Baden Reed breathing down his neck there, and Baden wants to pounce, not bounce. Griffin Gardner there right behind him in fourth. Shout out there to Jordan. He's tuned in. Unfortunately, he couldn't do race control tonight to other commitments, but he did say it looks like a mixed bag race, or a mixed race for people, which it definitely is. We've had a number of people retire. Bruce Smith, our latest retirement, he retired after Matt Morris got into the back of him and turned him. Aaron Dillon also retired. Brett Cananzi, we saw him fifth, and he also had an incident out there, and they put that car back on the transporter. The other guys that have made pits at the moment, Lakmal Leonage and Tom Freer, they made them recently, but Tom Freer was one of the first to stop very early in the race, and the question is, can he get that car home from when he pitted? It was only on lap 1 or 2, I think, that he brought that car in.
Sorry there, Bernie. Just as you were talking there, Luke Lucas and Richard Skender, who are battling over 16th place at the moment. Richard Skender, who we saw put in such a charging drive a couple of races ago, he actually got into the back of Lucas and turned him around. Such was the gap that they had to the car behind. It hasn't actually affected their position. They both managed to rejoin. But I've actually just seen a car go off in the background. I think Will Barrington was actually involved in that, who's sitting in 19th place at the moment. So there's plenty of bumper-to-bumper action taking place back in the field. Looks as though Richard Skender may have the pace advantage over Lucas at the moment, but that little piece of contact they had there may change everything. You see Lucas actually weave down the straight a little bit, try to take that inside. I think he really wants to defend, and no, he's actually left that position for Skender to go past. So it may have actually been a case of he realises Skender is faster. He doesn't really want to damage his car getting involved in any more incidents with him. So he's actually just let Skender go, and perhaps discretion the better part of valour there.
Yeah, just having a look at that replay while you're talking, and Lakmal Leonage got into the side there of Will Barrington and helped him learn how to control slides, or not control them in that instant. But I'll tell you what, Scott Lanark, he all of a sudden, he's jumped out by over 2 seconds. So I'd say Gary Hamilton's either made a mistake, or he's now got his mirrors full of Baden Reed, and look at him gassing it up there. He's really pushing that car hard. And as you're saying, Edward, he doesn't want to do that because he's going to chew those tyres out. He's got 12 minutes to go of this race.
Well, yeah, he's got a bit of a bottleneck actually at the moment, which is unusual for Gary Hamilton because he's very, very quick. But he's got Baden Reed behind him, he's got Griffin Gardner behind him. And I just wonder if perhaps, given the fast pace he was running earlier on in the race, I'm not sure the tyre pressures that he may be running, but he may have set it up for a short run, short fast run, more than the long run. And now his tyres have kind of warmed up to the stage that obviously the hot air in those tyres, they expand, it makes the tyre pressures grow and everything like that. And he looks like he's struggling, whereas Baden Reed and Gardner there, they look as though they may have been set up a little bit more for the long runs. And I know, Roger, you have a lot of knowledge about these car setups and so on. I mean, how do you read this scenario that we've got at the moment between Hamilton, Reed and Gardner?
Well, Edward, I'm not overly familiar with the Porsches, but I know, sort of coming from the oval racing side of things, where you are setting up for a long run, you generally want your tyres to come in later into your run, into your fuel run, rather than, if you're expecting a short run, you want your tyre pressures up. Your car does respond a little bit better, to steering inputs and those sorts of things. But where you've set up for a long run, it takes multiple laps for the car to come in, and if you do overdrive your car on those initial laps, you do end up struggling later on in the race with your tyres wanting to go, with your car getting a little bit, as we call it in the oval fraternity, loose or tight, oversteery or understeery. So I mean, aside from a fuel, the fuel strategy that these guys are playing at, we did hear Bernie talking about that, they probably wouldn't go into the pits for tyres. So I think it'll really come down to a fuel strategy. I mean, you're going to lose a lot more time putting tyres on and putting gas in the car and getting out again. So, I'm just sort of watching the race as it develops between Gary and Baden.
Yeah, certainly watching I'm just looking at Gardner and Reed and Hamilton at the moment, focusing particularly on Gardner. There's a lot of these guys here, they're actually, you see them breaking into the corners, they're braking hard. They seem to be racing these laps almost like they're qualifying laps. There's tyre smoke, there's locked wheels, there's tail slides, there's bits and pieces. I wonder how good these guys are going to be. Obviously, we are coming down to the closing stages of the races now, so realistically, now with only 7 or something minutes to go, it's go time. These guys realise that a position gain now is probably going to be a position gain for the finish. Therefore, they're throwing a bit of caution to the wind. They really are trying to gain as many positions as possible, and there's a lot of very, very close battle packs across the track, and whether you're battling for 13th, 14th place, or whether you're up there like Gardner and Reed are battling for podium positions, you're racing just as hard. You always want to gain that one extra position, and you can see here Hamilton at the moment still really acting as though as that cork in the bottle, and he's coming up to a couple of lapped cars as well, which is going to complicate things even further. And I just wonder, Bernie, if you're seeing anything else across the remainder of the track amongst the rest of the field, which is kind of replicating what we're seeing up front, where everyone is just racing incredibly hard for whatever position they can grab at the stage of the race.
Oh, there's action all the way down through there. We saw further down Richard Brookfield here, 14th position, having a great battle with David Mulhall for 13th. And as you said, we're down to 8 minutes, but they're all going to be going to capitalise on as many positions as they possibly can. One person out there that is desperate in getting positions back, that is Michael Healy. He came into this 2 points shy of Scott Lanark. At the moment, Scott's leading this quite easily, and he finds himself down to 5th. After lap 1, he dropped from 2nd all the way down to 9th, so a lot of work to do for him, and he's trying to get on the back of Griffin Gardner. Now, I've probably thrown a bit of a furphy here, but I think I was wrong when I said they're going to have to make a mandatory stop. I don't think we're going to see that tonight. It's just a sprint race to the end.
Yeah, certainly seems to be that way. And I tell you what, I feel bad because I think it may almost be a bad luck charm for Michael Healy. The last race I commentated at Zandvoort, he started on pole and fell all the way back, and then came together with Mitchell Chapman, I believe, and who was a lapped car at the time, and he was fighting for that points lead with Cameron Dance at the time. Now, obviously, different format, sprint race. Once again, he started right up the front, had a shocking first lap and fallen back to the back of the top 5. I mean, a lot of guys are killed to be up there in the top 5, but for somebody of Michael Healy's standard, he'd really want to be up there in first place. And it's, he's trying to fight his way back, but he's really running out of time. The good news is for him is he's got 3 cars right there in front of him in very close proximity to one another, and they are, locking brakes and attacking one another. And there's every chance that they might get into a bit of an incident, allow Michael to actually gain a couple of positions, and he'll be definitely thinking about that at the moment. He'll be looking at that battle, thinking of his championship. He'll be wanting them to sort of get into a little bit of nonsense and slow themselves up to allow him to capitalise. But at the same time, he doesn't want to be close enough that he's going to get involved in that as well. He's got points to think about. So let's see what he can do. He's coming up on the back of this battle now. It appears as though Gardner just right there on the back of Baden Reed as well. And it's going to be tight for him. I think that Lanark is out of reach, but certainly a second place. Don't count Healy out for a second place today.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be, one thing for Michael here, I wouldn't be counting out even Scott winning this, because it is Oran Park, and it does throw curveballs up here. Very hard track. We've seen Cooper have problems. We've seen Michael have problems, and I don't want to put the mockers on any of these blokes, but if I was Michael, I'd be pushing as hard as I can, and as you said, hoping that these guys come together, or that they get a bit loose and he'll catch them. And we saw when Cooper did that, he's still recovering. He's up to 6th now. He's still got Michael Thomas Hinds all over him, but he has not been able to make inroads back on Michael Healy. So a spin around here or a slight lose, it's going to cost you time, and that's what Michael's hoping is going to happen to the guys in front of him.
I think you've also got to remember that once you start getting into that position where you've got cars battling each other, that they tend to make more mistakes, even though they may not have an off per se. They do make more mistakes. They are locking up their brakes, driving that little bit, overdriving the car just that tiny amount, and that will leave the guy who's trying to catch up to that pack to catch up, rather at his pace. I mean, I've been trying to watch, trying to look at the last lap time, between this little battle pack that's going on, and you've got Gary Hamilton with the 104 644, Baden Reed with the 104 771, Griffin Gardner with the 104 763, and Michael Healy with the 104 895. But in the prior laps, you'd notice the guys in that pack that their lap times were slightly slower than what they are now, and that was giving Michael a bit more opportunity to catch up. And even Scott Lanark, I did notice even one of his laps sort of prior to where we are now, he had slowed down a bit, and that pack had caught up a little bit closer to him. Obviously not to within striking distance, but that's just the nature of racing.
Yeah, he dropped a good 0.8 of a second in one lap. The gap now 2.1 seconds. It was well out to well over 3 seconds at one time. It did come back to 1.8, and he's starting to stretch it. So maybe he did have a bit of a lose out there, and he's gathered it back up. But have a look at Griffin Gardner now. Edward, he's looking very hungry, and he's decided 3 minutes to go. Only got a couple of laps here. If he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's go time for all of these three. I mean, Lanark, he's just managing that gap. If motor racing is as much about managing everything on your vehicle as it is about outright pace. And he's just managing that gap. He's 2.6 seconds at the moment. He's home and hosed as far as he's concerned. These three here, they know that from 4th to 2nd position, anything in between and potentially disaster is all up to them now. They've got a couple of minutes to go, as you mentioned. They've got only a couple of laps to go, and they're really just getting into one another as we see one of the lap cars moving out the way there. But it's close, and this can absolutely make your race. We've got Gardner there sitting in behind Reid and Hamilton. Hamilton he looks under control. He looks like he's got that second place sewed up. He's very smooth. He's very tidy. He's not making a lot of mistakes. He's not sliding. He's not taking a lot out of the tyres. But I tell you what, Baden Reid and Griffin Gardner there, they are going at it. Those two are not feeling safe at all. There's locked wheels, snatch brakes, tyre smoke, running wide, little bits and pieces there, mistakes moving in. As you see, Gardner really just trying to line up on the back of Reid now and try to get that slipstream into turn one. There aren't a lot of straights here as he has a look, and unfortunately the draft, the slipstream that you can get along the straights is not as pronounced here as it would be at another different circuit. But Reid there just missing the apex very slightly, and Gardner hoping to capitalise on that. He hasn't got long to go. He really has not got long to go. And if he's going to make a move, he really needs to make it now.
He certainly does, but he hasn't been able to make a move all race, has he? But he is closing, and he does want to do it. But the thing is with Oran Park, where can you make that move? It's only really a couple of spots. You might be able to get a good run out of the dog leg into that final corner, but if you do, there's a high chance you're going to come together. As we saw in the background there, Thomas Hinds, well, he's just made a liar of me because he's made a beautiful pass and jumped Cooper there. We'll jump back and have a look at this, and Thomas will show you how easy it is to pass at Oran Park. So keep an eye on Thomas Hinds here as he comes across the bridge, and he makes a beautiful move here, and I'll just be quiet and you can just enjoy it. No, my luck, Cooper will probably lose it and he's make a liar of me, but here we go. So as he comes across the bridge here, keep an eye on the car in front of him. He gets a good run out of here, and Cooper's just made a slight mistake, but then Thomas pounces and just takes that position away.
Yeah, that's just classic Thomas Hinds, isn't it? I mean, he's been racing now for half an hour. It doesn't matter if he races for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. That car is always absolutely spotless. There's not a mark on it, and that's just the way he races. And, contrary to some of the other guys, including myself, you finish a race and your car looks like a crumpled up ball of tinfoil on wheels. His always looks absolutely spotless, and that's one of the great things about his particular driving style, his approach, his attitude and skill, is that that car always finishes a race showroom perfect.
Here goes the winner, Scott Lanark, takes out round 9 here at Oran Park. Congratulations to Scott. Gary Hamilton, second, third. Baden Reid just ahead of Griffin Gardner. Michael Healy, he comes home in fifth. Sixth, Thomas Hinds. Cooper Webster, he's limping that car home. He's in a lot of trouble after that big hit, and he's actually, what's he going to do? Is he going to try and get it across? He is, but seventh position, he's out of fuel, would you believe?
Yeah, it looks like Matt Morris just jagged him on the line as well there. So he's going to be really disappointed. He's going to be disappointed with that. I'm not sure why he would be out of fuel and nobody else would be. Whether it was a case of other people managing it throughout the race, or whether he was carrying a little bit of damage there or something like that. But he's fallen way off in the last couple of laps, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? And it all started when he hit that... I don't know what he hit out there, but the whole front nose jumped in the air, and then he went way off the pace and ran out of fuel. So, he'll be kicking himself. He ended up coming home in around about 8th position by the looks of it, as we see the rest of the guys come through now to take the checkered flag. So let's go through the final positions here, folks, so you can see where your favourite driver finished tonight. And then we'll go to very quick interviews if any come up, and then we'll start setting up for the AOSC, which kicks off tonight in around about 10 minutes. So we're going to have to be very quick here. So let's go through the final results, folks. So Scott Lanark, he takes the win. He led every single lap of this race. 28 laps they did. Gary Hamilton, he comes home second. Third, Baden Reid. Fourth, Griffin Gardner. Michael Healy, we saw him at the start have a slight lose. cost him big time. He did manage to claw his way back to 5th. Thomas Hinds, great drive by him. Hardly, well, not a scratch on that car. Up 2 positions, come home in 6th. 7th, Matt Morris. Well, he did have a few scratches on that car, but he did get it home in 7th. 8th, Cooper Webster. 9th, Cameron Dance. Coming home in 10th tonight was Jono Freeman, and then Blake Purdy, he come home in 11th. Brett Douglas, great drive by Brett, up 6 positions to finish in 12th. 13th, up 7 positions was Richard Brookfield. Then we have David Mulhull in 14th, 15th Richard Skender, 16th Luke Lucas, 17th Laseth Leonage. Will Barrington, well, he jumped 6 positions to come home in 18th. 19th was Mick Wilson. Home in 20th was Tom Freer, with Lakmal Leonage home in 21st. 22nd tonight, John Hyde. He dropped 11 positions. Then we're down to our retirements. So Bruce Smith retired, classified 23rd. Aaron Dillon, 24th. 25th, Brett Cananzi. Tim Weston, 26th, and 27th was Alex Court. So that was your field, folks. And looking at the biggest mover here, that would have to go to, I think that could be Richard Brookfield. Congratulations to Richard.
Yeah, he's made a big jump up through the field, and I tell you what, in terms of like your biggest shaker, biggest drop down through the field, Brett Cananzi, he qualified 5th and he finished 25th. He dropped 20 positions, which is, not far off a position a minute in the course of this race. So obviously he didn't finish the race rough for him, but he would have been expecting a lot more out of this race, having qualified so far at the front. He had pace, and unfortunately just the circumstances of the race didn't work out for him. Scott Lanark, fantastic drive, really just pulled into the lead and managed it from the front. As far as competitors through up and down the field, Roger, who impressed you the most tonight?
Oh, it's a bit of a tough call. I was sort of focused on that race for 3rd and 4th. Saw some very good driving all around. Again, the Porsche's a bit foreign to me, but just in general, the driving was really, really good. Very impressed. There weren't too many accidents. Quite impressive to watch a lot of tyre lockups and that sort of thing to try and get the car to rotate a bit more through the corner. I think driver of the night, definitely Scott Lanark. I mean, dominating the evening. There's no doubt about it. Michael Healy, his driving was really good. Basically, that top 5, I mean, they were just, really brilliant to watch. And sort of further down the field, didn't really pay too much attention to it. But yeah, it's I guess that's just how it went.
Yeah, it was definitely an awesome race, but we're going to have to call it there, guys. We've got 5 minutes till the AOSC kicks off, and I've got to do some wizardry in the background here to get that all set up. But I'd like to thank you, Edward and Roger, joining me in the Combox tonight. I hope you've had a good time doing it. It's definitely was enjoyable calling this race with you guys tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for having us along, Bernie. Always enjoy calling the Porsches. It's a great series. It's run really well. It's got a very strong field. Everything's very, very good with this series. I really enjoy watching it and calling it. It's been an absolute privilege. So well done to the top 3. Well done to all the drivers. And thanks very much for having us along. It is always a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, Bernie. We'll catch up with you soon.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. All right, folks, we'll end this broadcast now. I've put the link in the YouTube chat where you can go and find the AOSC. So we should be back online in the next 5 to 8 minutes. So see you soon.